magic and the seasonal signs. So thank you all for your patience while I made my last video, which I was quite pissed that day. And I'm better now, and I want to tell you how the muses in the museum realized the effect of the planets. So one of my students has had Pluto go over her ascendant several times, and she just realized the nature of Pluto by understanding what she felt when Pluto was going over her ascendant, and then going into the archetype of Pluto's abduction and experiencing it fully without entangling, out there in the external world, so that she managed to survive Pluto crossing her ascendant. And I had Nessus cross my north node. It is off my north node. But on the day that it was exact at 16 degrees, I think it was like 15 minutes, and the exact seconds also, I was like folded over in bed with like the most horrible cramping and pain and nastiness. And I was like, Nessus is assaulting me. That's how the muses in the museums found out what the planets and the objects that are up there mean, because they would see how it felt in the body. So that's important for you to notice. And even the people who do sidereal or sidereal, however you want to use that explanation, they felt the energetic change of Pluto entering Aquarius. So there's where the proof is. Did you feel it? Did you feel it when Pluto was conjunct the sun? My gosh, it was like being in a cauldron, which is something I want to talk to you about. The most magical day of the year, in my experience, is the cross-quarter day of February 1st and 2nd. And there's two very conspicuous events that happen on February 1st and 2nd, that cross-quarter day. One is called Groundhog's Day, and so they get everybody's focus and attention on some creature that comes up and allegedly sees its shadow or not. And then everyone's like watching this gopher woodchuck thing coming up out of the hole, like that means something. So they focus our attention on that. For the rest of the people around that time, but not always right on the cross-quarter day, is what is called the Super Bowl. And I want to talk to you about that, because to me, that February 1st and 2nd is the most magical day of the year. And so if you do not know your star maps and you do not know your seasonal depictions, you do not know why February 1st and 2nd is called the initiation of the witches. So here we are. We're going to get into it. The Super Bowl, or what I used to, I'm going to piss, people might get pissed off, but I used to call it the Stupid Bowl, is a giant cauldron, isn't it? It's a bowl. And they do that around that time of the cross-quarter day in early February, the Stupid Bowl. And they connect that energy in that bowl to whatever louche feed that they want to give the dark witches, the nasty witches, the people doing black magic. And they do the weird halftime shows and all of that. That's because you need to know the cross-quarter day is the most powerful magic day of the year. It's the initiation of witches. And what I have heard from various people who understand what the Illuminati are doing during the Stupid Bowl is it's a giant cauldron of energy, right? And they put up those big screen TVs in them. And what I heard from Shane in one of his videos, Shane the Ruiner, Rebels Advocate, was that the Illuminati and the High Witches will take that black plasma screen, which is like a liquid crystal plasma screen, and they'll harvest everybody's excitement and everybody's anger and everybody's like pissed offness or everyone's happiness and excitement and slapping each other on the back. And they will take that giant TV screen and they will put it in some kind of ritual magic room, and they will feed off the louche of that screen. That's what these screens are, people. That's why they always bring them out at every reset. They're harvesting loosh. They need as much loosh as they can get to get the reset to go their way. We're going to glitch it. That's the whole point of me explaining to you what these important dates are so you can hold it in your awareness and know not to entangle with it. So the other thing, when I was doing my master's degree in human services and women's crisis counseling, was that we always studied that on the stupid bowl, sorry if I'm offending you, honestly, but on the stupid bowl, that is the highest level of domestic violence in the entire world, is that night. Because anyone whose player didn't play the game right, whatever, they beat up their wife. That's after drinking a whole lot of alcohol and really bad food, so their liver is inflamed and they're angry. Plus, they send out the cytronics, right? So that's a big loosh feed for the dark witches, the black magic, and the magic that is trying to contain our consciousness. So if you don't read the star maps correctly and you don't know the seasonal depictions, you're going to be lost as to what day to do the magic. The reason that I'm doing the Bog Study, and I have my Bog group this afternoon, which I'm very excited about, is because Saturn is in Pisces. We got to go in the bog. We got to get down deep in the dirty water and find out what's under there. And Nessus is in Pisces, and Neptune is in Pisces. So I happen to know the best magic to do right now is that looking into those murky waters of how has the collective consciousness been held in these type of traps. Bodies in the bog, ritually sacrificed on certain dates. That's how magic is done. So you have to know this. And you cannot be looking at your smartphone. So I'm going to show you a star map so that you can understand. I try to get my computer here so I can see it. So this is the path of the ecliptic. But of course, I know that we're in a geocentric model. So all these old books are heliocentric. But in a geocentric model, look how Capricorn and Aquarius overlap. Look how there's the ecliptic. And both Capricorn and Aquarius overlap. See, here's the ecliptic. And during that, also, you will see that when you get to the fish is a tiny little constellation. The Pegasus is huge. That's why in the last video where I was saying, oh, don't worry, the sun will get to the fish eventually, but for a long period between Aquarius and Pisces is the Pegasus constellation, which extends across all of them. So you must understand that in the ancient days when they named the seasonal depictions, it's not because it was only in Cancer or it was only in Capricorn. It's just that, what are you going to say? Are you going to say Eridanus and Satis and, all the different Aruga and Perseus and Aries? And, are you going to say Betelgeuse? And, are you going to say every one of them? Or are you just going to shorten it to, okay, this is the seasonal depiction for Cancer? So you have to understand, when you're using your little phone and looking up at that constellation, it's because the seasonal depictions are many different constellations. They just called it, Cancer. The other book that I found very interesting is Immanuel Velikovsky's book, Worlds in Collision. He documents, as well as I do, he went back to all of these references of when did Venus first appear? Because as I told you, when I did Michael Tessarian's book, he had a lot of great references. And it has nothing to do with Michael Tessarian's personality or who he is now. I'm just talking about his book. It had all the great references of the people in the Andes mountain who said the moon was not even here 30,000 years ago. Well, this man, whoever he is, whatever his personality, his character, who his family is, I don't care. He has references to when Venus and Mars first appeared. Venus appeared as a comet And when she came in, she scorched the earth 2 different times within 52 years. And that was not long ago. That was like 3,500 years ago that the astronomers and astrologers saw her come in as a comet. My version is she was born from the crown of Uranus. Uranus gave off an electrical charge. It might have affected Jupiter, and that's where you get the story of Athena coming out of the crown of Jupiter's head. But to me, it was from the castration of Uranus that Venus was born. Okay, and when Venus came in as a comet, she is one of those figures that is fairly new to our system environment here, our realm, which is a geocentric model, not a heliocentric model. And she came in with 2 like horns and a big long tail. So the Mexicans called her Quetzalcoatl, which is the feathered serpent. The Hebrews called her Noga, Noga. And the Sanskrit people called her Naga, or the serpent, or the snake. And I have this sneaking suspicion that when she came in, which she's also called Lucifer, right? She grazed the ground as a comet, and a lot of weird mushrooms and pathogenic species and parasites from interstellar, other dimensions came into this dimension. And I do really wonder if this serpent that caused the fall was because this comet Venus came in and created a whole bunch of mushrooms species from a scorched earth realm, terraformed system environment, and they were eaten, and then there was knowledge of good and evil. Their eyes were opened wide, and then they knew they were naked, so maybe they had sex or something. I mean, I don't know what it was, but you see, that's how Genesis is a star map to me. It's a story. It has nothing to do with religious belief. But what this author does say is because this happened, they started making human sacrifices to Lucifer, the morning star, Venus, and they were trying to get her to correct her orbit and stop scorching the earth, because whenever it did that, a whole bunch of weird species and parasites and mushrooms that were never here before would spring up. And that could be the whole fall, right, that we've been told in the Garden of Eden. Very interesting when you start to put these things together. And that is the job of the metaphysician, the oracle, the astrologer. It's your job. If you're following my channel, it's your job to think about these things, to read these books, to put them all together. Of course, they're all on the heliocentric model, but even this guy, which was written in the 1950s and republished in 1965, says it's a clock. And he doesn't know, because he was working with various telescopes and astronomical features, but he does say it's a perfect clock and Polaris never moves. So to me, we really need to stop arguing about all these different astrological systems and understand Polaris has never moved, does not move, and is the pole star, because we're not moving, folks. All right. These other objects that have tails like comets that come in like Venus and change their orbit, those are called the wanderers. So in Hellenistic or ancient astrology, I do not do modern or Western astrology. So I also want you to know that I am doing Hellenistic ancient astrology. The wanderers are different than the watchers. So I also want you to know that. From the Hellenistic perspective, Venus is wandering. She moves, and she might move again. Do not think that that big gas thing up there is not going to move. That is within, that came in to the hologram with the whole canopy of the stars. And what's interesting to me is look at his picture. This book is awesome, and you can still get it from thrift books. It's a hardcover. You can get it for like $30, but it shows you how to use your fist to measure the exact 30 degrees, because it's a perfect clock. And then you have to really study each of these star maps again, to understand that Aquarius and Capricorn absolutely overlap. So there's no way to even make them separate months. Look at that. Here's Capricornus, here's Aquarius, and this much of it overlaps. So you cannot make them into separate months. It's a seasonal depiction. That's what it is. So the seasonal depiction is important because you have to have the perfect clock. In this book, which was one of the first Hellenistic astrology books after they got the ancient scrolls, Kevin is still, unfortunately, this was the third printing in 2003 when they first started to get that. And Demetra did the same thing. They were still using the modern, or what's called Western astrology, of Aries as the first house. So I'm not even going to tell you to get this book. A lot of it's really good, but he's using Aries as the first house. Cancer is the first house. It's always going to be the theme of Monday. It's Cancer, which is feminine, water, the ability to feel emotionally safe, nurtured. It's the part of the body that are the women's breasts. So if your mom could breastfeed you and you were emotionally supported and your mom felt safe, then you have a happy, healthy child. Modern astrology, or what's called Western astrology, has Aries as the first house. You come in fighting. Why? Because they're going to slap you, and then they're going to take your foreskin off. And if you're working with a clergy member, they're potentially going to also, this has been still debated, suck the blood off of that child that has just been circumcised. So yeah, in modern astrology, Aries is the first. Because you got to fight to survive as soon as you take your first breath. In Hellenistic astrology, it's called the theme of Monday. Cancer and the emotional cardinal waters of motherhood and feeling emotionally safe is first. And that is in my astrology videos that are still on Vimeo all the way back from 2017. They're all free. You can all become astrologers. All right. But to really be able to do it and apply it, you have to study with me. Which brings me to the next piece. I'm going to start traveling. I'm actually going tomorrow, and I'm going to be traveling for a while. So my calendar for February is booked, and I appreciate so much all of your support and your request for sessions and saying how that you love my videos. And I know Sergeant Schultz just put up another one of my astrology videos, so I got a whole lot of new requests. And I know that Soul on Ice has been sharing some of my videos, and I thank you both for that. I really appreciate your support and just getting it out there, because again, I'm just trying to get it out there so you're all equipped with this knowledge of what this place is, and what we're doing here, and how it's a trickster template, and it tries to polarize us. And it tries to polarize us by, sending out technology that is smart, and everybody holding their phone up to the sky and saying, see, it's actually in Capricorn. That's because your phone is not seeing the whole sky dome. Okay, it's called a vault. And this book has some really interesting interpretations from various indigenous people about this sky vault, or what he calls the sky arch. And it's a sky arch. You are in this thing that actually looks like this, not like this black thing here, but it literally looks like this. Polaris is up here, and you are inside of a vault, and you can use your fist, straight arm right out there, and you will see the 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, but you have to stand on a circle, which is a perfect clock, which is why when I hand draw my charts, let me see whose chart I can open to here. It's kind of embarrassing. I'll try and cover it. So that's why when I show you a chart, that is this circle. It's got to be a perfect circle, and it has to have the exact 30 degrees in 12 different sections. And then if you stand in the center of that, that's called the geocentric model, and you put your hand up there, you will be able to figure out the entire sky. And then in the back of this book, it has a small ephemeris, but it's only until 1970, because again, it was written in the the late 50s, early 60s, and it's in different printings. But I also wanted to read you from one of the first Hellenistic astrologers when we finally figured out what was going on here and how astrology had been all muddied by people thinking that they know the signs. So here it is, page 45. The signs are perhaps the best known parts of astrology and at the same time the least understood. Much of the confusion stems from the fact that the signs were named after constellations of fixed stars, and most people simply assume that the signs and the constellations are one and the same. This is not the case, and it never has been. So it never was that it was just one sign and only Cancer or only Capricorn. It was always known that they were overlapping, and that on either side of the ecliptic, there's also like massive other constellations that play into the description of the seasonal depiction. Like when I used to try and explain to people about that 8-8 means nothing, and that I really think that they need to study Dubé and Merak, because everyone who's doing that big loosh feed on 8-8 is giving it right to the part of the bear which is angry. And we saw this last year on that 8-8, they got enough of the New Age community to be doing their weird prayers and rituals around this alleged Lionsgate on Dubé and Merak, and then they took down an entire city, right? They totally flattened with smart meter technologies and directed energy weapons a whole place in Hawaii. All you New Agers who think you're fifth dimensional, who were studying the alleged 8-8 Lionsgate, why couldn't you fix that if you were all doing your high fifth dimensional magic? It's because there is no 8-8 people. Dubé and Merak are a pretty angry pair of stars, if you understand what that is. So the magic that they're getting you to do is their black magic on those things, because you don't know when the real date is of these seasonal depictions. Sirius alignment to the sun is absolutely July 4th and 5th, which is why they picked that for the United States birthday, 4th of July. You see, they're doing magic. And they got you all mixed up and messed up and all over the place, so that on Groundhog's Day, when you're all watching the friggin' groundhog, a Puxtawani Phil or something like that, you should be doing your magic. How do you do magic on a day like that? Well, my intention is to get whatever parts of my being that have ever been put in a bog up out of the bog. So if I'm going to do magic, I'm going to have my cauldron, not the stupid bowl cauldron, which is a bowl, which is a cauldron. And I'm going to put like in a little slip of paper, please, my unconscious self, my true self, can you please find any part of me that is still pinned down with oak staffs in the bog? And that will, that is how it happens. And you've got to really take that day, February 1st and 2nd, as the magic of the initiation of the witches. What is it that your intention is? Again, it's not about manifestation. I don't make deals with the demonic in this realm. I had, for many years, a site called Practical Magic Permaculture, and it still is on Facebook on Practical Magic Permaculture. That kind of magic has to be practical. If you want to plant seeds, yes, you should absolutely have the Farmer's Almanac and make sure that you're planting them at the right time. But the Farmer's Almanac is also a type of magic where it knows the seasonal depictions and it tells you when to plant what. That is practical magic. Now, this other magic that I'm talking about is access to you. It's not about being rich or getting the whatever consumer good that you want here. It's the access to your true self, which is found through your unconscious mind. So if you put on a little slip of paper, show me, was I part of any of these weird sacrifices that happened when Venus was zipping around as a comet or a serpent, and people all over the world were sacrificing people? And I really do think that when you get dismembered and ritually sacrificed like that, like the priests did weird things, like they would shoot an arrow through an effigy that resembled Mars, and then they would like sacrifice a virgin. And I'm going, holy crap, is that what ties us here because of all this soul loss and fragmentation back to the original self? So my intention is to find that original self that all these iterations of self have come from. And that original self may very well be in a bog or something like that. So that will be my magic for this coming February 1st and 2nd. So the magic of the cauldron and the seasonal signs. Thanks for watching.